Shalom, I'm Hannah, and today I'll be reading from Genesis chapters 32 through 34 in the TLB version. Early in the morning, Laban got up and kissed his grandchildren and his daughters and blessed them. Then Laban left and returned to his place. While Jacob left on his way, the angels of God met him. Then Jacob said, when he saw them, "This is God's camp," and he named that place Mahanaim. Then Jacob sent messengers before him to his brothers Esau to the land of Seir, the field of Edom. He also commanded them, saying, "This is what you should say to my lord, to Esau. This is what your servant Jacob said. I've been staying with Laban and have lingered until now. Now I've come to possess oxen and donkeys, flocks, male servants and female servants. I sent word to tell my lord in order to find favor in your eyes." The messengers returned to Jacob, saying, "We went to your brother to Esau, and he also coming out to meet you, and 400 men with him." So Jacob became extremely afraid and distressed. He divided the people with him, along with the flocks and herds and camels, into 2 camps. For he thought that if Esau comes to one camp and strikes it, the camp that's left will escape. Then Jacob said, "O God of my father Abraham, and God of my father Isaac, Adonai, who said to me, 'Return to your land and to your relatives, and I will do good with you.' I am unworthy of all the proofs and mercy, and of all the dependability that you have shown to your servant. For with only my staff I crossed over this Jordan, and now I've become 2 camps. Deliver me, please, from my brother's hand, from Esau's hand, for I am afraid of him, that he'll come and strike me, the mothers with the children. You yourself said, I will most certainly do good with you, and you will make your seed like the sand of the sea that cannot be counted because of its abundance." So he stayed overnight there. Then from all that had come into his possession, he took an offering for Esau his brother, 200 female goats, 20 billy goats, 200 ewes, 20 rams, 30 milking camels with their young, 40 cows, 10 bulls, 20 female donkeys, and 10 male donkeys. He put them in the hands of his servants, each herd by itself, and he said to his servants, "Pass over before me and put a gap between each of the herds." Then he commanded the first one, saying, "When my brother Esau meets you and asks you, saying, 'To whom do you belong, and where are you going? And to whom do all these before you belong?' Then you are to say to your servant, to Jacob, 'It's an offering sent to my lord, to Esau. And look, he's also behind us.'" And he also commanded the second one, the third one, and all those who were going behind the flock, saying, "Say the same exact thing to Esau when you find him. Then you are to say, 'Look, your servant Jacob is also behind us.' For he thought, 'Let me appease him with the offerings that goes ahead of me, and afterwards see his face. Perhaps he'll lift up my face.' So the offering passed over ahead of him, while he spent that night in the camp. Then he got up that night and took his 2 wives, his 2 female servants, and his 11 sons, and crossed over the ford of the Jabbok. He took them and sent them across the stream, and he sent across whatever he had. So Jacob remained all by himself. Then a man wrestled with him until the break of dawn. When he saw that he had not overcome him, he struck the socket of his hip. So he dislocated the socket of Jacob's hip. When he wrestled with him, then he said, "Let me go, for the dawn has broken." But he said, "I won't let you go unless you bless me." Then he said to him, "What is your name?" "Jacob," he said. Then he said, "Your name will no longer be Jacob, but rather Israel, for you have struggled with God and with men, and you have overcome." Then Jacob asked and said, "Please tell me your name." But he said, "What's this? You are asking my name?" Then he blessed him there. So Jacob named the place Peniel, for I've seen God face to face, and my life has been spared. Now the sun rose upon him, just as he crossed by Peniel, limping because of his hip. That is why the children of Israel do not eat the tendon of the hip socket to this very day, because he struck the socket of Jacob's thigh on the tendon of the hip. Then Jacob glanced up and saw, behold, there was Esau coming, and 400 men with him. So he divided the children among Leah, Rachel, and the 2 female servants. He put the female servants and their children first, then Leah and her children behind them, then Rachel and Joseph behind them. But he himself passed on ahead of them and bowed to the ground 7 times until he came near to his brother. But Esau ran to meet him, hugged him, fell on his neck, and kissed him. And they wept. His eyes glanced up, and he saw the women and the children, and he said, "Who are these with you?" "The children whom God has graciously given your servant," he said. Then the female servants approached, they and their children, and bowed down. Leah also approached along with her children, and they bowed down. And finally Joseph and Rachel approached and bowed down. "What do you mean by this whole caravan that I've met?" So he said, "To find favor in your eyes, my lord." But Esau said, "I have plenty, O my brother. Do keep all that belongs to you." Yet Jacob said, "No, please. If I have found favor in your eyes, then you will take my offering from my hand. For this is the reason I have seen your face. It is like seeing the face of God, and you've accepted me. Please take my blessing that was brought to you because God has been gracious to me, and because I have everything." So he kept urging him until he accepted. Then he said, "Let's journey and be on our way, and I'll go ahead of you." He continued, "My Lord knows that the children are tender and that the flocks and the cattle in my care are nursing. So if they were pushed hard just one day, all the flocks would die. Please let my Lord pass on ahead of your servant, and I'll move on further, gradually, at a pace suited to the livestock that are before me, and at a pace suited to the children until I come to my Lord in Seir." Then Esau said, "Please let me leave with you some of the people who are with me." But he said, "What's this? Let me find favor in my Lord's eyes." So on that day Esau returned on his way to Seir, but Jacob journeyed to Succoth and built a house for himself and for his livestock. He made booths. That is the reason that place is called Succoth. So Jacob arrived in Shalom, to the city of Shechem, which is in the land of Canaan. When he came from Padan Aram and camped right in front of the city, he purchased the portion of the field there, where he had pitched his tent, from the sons of Hamor, Shechem's father, for 100 pieces of money. There he set up an altar, and he called it El, is Israel's God. Now Dinah, Leah's daughter, whom she bore for Jacob, went out to look at the daughters of the land. When Shechem, the son of Hamor, the Hivite, the prince of the land, saw her, he took her and lay with her and raped her. But his soul clung to Dinah, Jacob's daughter, and he loved the young woman and spoke reassuringly to the young woman. So Shechem said to his father Hamor, saying, "Get me this girl for a wife." Now Jacob had heard that he had defiled his daughter, Dinah, while his sons were with his livestock in the field. So Jacob kept quiet until they came in. Meanwhile, Shechem's father Hamor went out to Jacob in order to speak with him. Jacob's sons had already come in from the field when they heard, and the man were deeply grieved and furious, because he had committed a vile deed in Israel by lying with Jacob's daughter, which ought never to be done. But Hamor spoke with them, saying, "My son Shechem, he is very attached to your daughter. Please give her to him for a wife. Intermarry with us. You can give your daughter to us, and you can take our daughters for yourselves. You can live with us, and the land will be open to you. Live in it, move about freely in it, and settle down in it." Shechem also said to her father and to her brothers, "Would that I find favor in your eyes. Whatever you say to me, I'll give. Set the dowry and the presents as high as you like, and I'll give you whatever you say to me. But give me the young woman as a wife." But Jacob's son answered Shechem and his father Hamor deceitfully as they spoke, because he had defiled their sister Dinah. They said to them, "We can't do this thing. Give our sister to a man who is uncircumcised, for this is a disgrace to us. Only by this will we consent to you. If you will become like us, be circumcising every male, then we'll give you our daughter and take your daughters for ourselves and live with you and become one people. But if you don't listen to us and be circumcised, we'll take our daughter and leave." Now their words seemed good to Hamor, as well as Hamor's son Shechem. So the young man did not hesitate to do it, since he delighted in Jacob's daughter. Now he was honored above everyone else in his father's house. So Hamor and his son Shechem came into the gate of their city and spoke to the men in their city. These men are enjoying a peaceful relationship with us, and they are living in the land and moving about freely in it. As for the land, look, it's spread out on both sides before us. We can take their daughters to be our wives, and we can give our daughters to them. But by this did these men consent to us, to live with us and to become one people. When all our males are circumcised, as they are circumcised, their livestock and their possessions, won't they be ours? Only let us consent to them so that they'll live with us. Now everyone else who went out of the gate of the city listened to Hamor and to his son Shechem. And every male was circumcised, everyone who went out the gate of his city. Then on the third day, while they were in pain, 2 of Jacob's sons, Simeon and Levi, Dinah's brothers, each took his sword and came against the city, undisturbed, and killed every male. Hamor and his son Shechem they killed with the sword, then took Dinah from Shechem's house and left. Jacob's sons came upon the slain and plundered the city, because they defiled their sister. They took their flocks, their cattle, and their donkeys, those that were in the city as well as those that were in the field. All their wealth, their little children, and their wives they captured and plundered, as well as everything that was in the house. But Jacob said to Simeon and Levi, "You've brought trouble on me, making me a stench among the inhabitants of the land, among the Canaanites and the Perizzites. I am but a few men. They'll gather against me and strike me, then I'll be destroyed, my household and I." But they said, "Should he treat our sister like a prostitute?"